Hello and welcome back to the 4 Mile Circus. We're about to start episode 4 of Summer Rose Courts, and where we left off at the last episode, a lot of things happened. There was a meeting between Ruby, Glinda, Belladonna, and the new guy, Adam Taurus, who's an interesting character, to discuss the Grimm, and things got a little heated. And at the end of it, Ruby Rose and Blake stepped outside. So here we go. Ruby Rose. I'm sorry things got so heated in there. I don't think she was. I think she enjoyed it. That's just me. Blake. Me too, it's a delicate subject. But if you remember that the Faunus have been overlooked for a long time, they've been left to look after themselves, in effect. And they feel slightly aggrieved by that. Ruby Rose, yeah, no kidding. But I hope you and I can continue to be friends, being friends, and helping each other. Blake, of course I'll ask Master Oobleck to help me compile our information to something easy to read. If you remember, Blake and Master Oobleck have been working together, secretly to some extent, to learn more about the Grimm and how to battle them. Blake. And then we can share with Lord Ozpin and Lady Glinda. Oh, good old Lady Glinda, the smiler. She's always so happy. Ruby. Sounds like a plan. Do you want to get started right away? She's so keen, Ruby, isn't she? Look at her little bright eyes. Blake. Is that where we're headed? Because the library is that way. She points in the opposite direction. We had a look round the castle, actually, in the last episode. Ruby, I'm taking the long way round so I can ask you something. Oh yes, Ruby. Would you like to be a member of the Summer Rose Court? Really? Oh, she stops in her tracks. Then she shakes her head, laughing under her breath. She doesn't look impressed by that offer. Look at a little earnest face from Ruby. It's an earnest offer. Ruby Rose, what? I'm serious. We have Yang to represent the western part of this plain, Glinda the north, Ozpin the east, and I'm here for the central part. Ideally, we're getting 1 or 2 people from each of the other planes. It's a good plan. It is a good plan, Ruby. So we also need someone here to speak for the Faunus in the south. Now, if you remember that Blake's fighting involved with taking on a different set of Grimm that we weren't aware of beforehand. Blake, what makes me your first choice? She doesn't seem overwhelmed by this offer, does she? I like you. No, I'm going to go for you're the logical one. It's more of a regal answer. I feel like you make sense. You're proactive and you can keep cool. I would just feel better knowing we have an actual Faunus here. Blake, an actual Faunus. Uh-oh. I don't think this is going well, Ruby. I don't think she can see the signs. You know what I mean? Where's Yang? I think we might need Yang. I just don't want us in a situation again where someone from the Menageries is trying to get our help and we ignore them. So yeah, as I said, the Menageries, which is a brutal name for where the Faunus were lumped together, were in trouble, and it wasn't getting through to the hierarchy of what was happening. Ruby, that doesn't sit right with me. It's so wrong. I say I like Ruby. She's got a heart of gold. Blake, I don't mind joining your court, but do you really have the authority to appoint me? Well, she's the queen. What do you mean? There you go. Ruby, of course I do. I'm the queen. Blake. What? I think we both know better than that. What? What? I'm in sync with the game again. Blake, I'd like to work together, but not if we aren't going to be honest about what's really going on here. What is really going on here? What's going on here? My eyebrows furrow in confusion. Look at that confused face. She's like, what? I don't understand. Blake, it's all very convenient. Have I missed something here? The young and beautiful queen, noble and kind-hearted, lost to the desert for years and years. She wasn't really lost to the desert, was she? She was hidden there for her own protection. Wait. Blake, discovered in the middle of the darkest chapter of our history, rushed back in utter secrecy, and now expected to lead her people to stability and peace. It's a bit cynical, that is. I think we can all see that Ruby's here to help. I know a story when I see one. Okay, right. Well, this hasn't gone well. Maybe it's time to reconsider that joining the Crimson Court offer, Ruby. It's not a story, says Ruby. I am the Queen. Blake rolls her eyes. You really don't believe me? You think Ozpin made me up or something? Yeah. Get lost, Blake. Like a puppet. Blake, frankly, yes. She's direct, Blake, if nothing else. Why else would the Queen be allowed around the dangerous faunus all alone? Is she dangerous, Blake? I mean, she looks kind of dangerous, doesn't she? But she's hardly alone. She's surrounded by the King's guards and Torchwick's bully boys. She gestures around at the empty halls and my heartbeat starts to quicken. She does have a point. What's happening? Blake, you're young, inexperienced, a perfect figurehead for Ozpin and Goodwitch to pass whatever rules they like without taking the blame. Oh, I see, so that's the accusation, that she's just being used as a figurehead and she's actually having her strings pulled, puppet-like, by Ozpin and Torchwick. We don't like Torchwick. Boo! Ruby Rose, I'm 17. That's an adult in the Xiao Long tribe, you know. Sure is. Managing to stay alive past an arbitrary age doesn't make you an adult. It's a valid point. It's a valid point. But look at Ruby's face. She's getting angry. It's what you've been through. Oh, she's getting angry. Ruby, you have no idea what I've been through. Blake, I know you want to help, but you need to wake up. It's rather condescending now. Where's Yang? Oh, we told Yang to stay behind, didn't we? I think that was a bad move. Blake, or someone like Ozpin or Adam Taurus. We know that guy, the guy with the horns on and the mask and the face. Or Adam is going to eat you alive. Is that a possibility? Does he eat people? Like this? What? Oh! Wow, what? I like the way the music's changed pace. That is rather scary. She's got a knife to her throat. There's no other warning before I hear the rattle of chains. Blake moves impossibly fast, holding out her weapon and stretching it across my throat, shoving me into the wall. Ruby doesn't look that bothered. She looks determined. But what's going on? Blake Belladonna, show me your strength as queen. You better be careful, Blake. You're gonna get what you wish for. Ruby doesn't look that worried by this. She actually quite likes it. You can't, can you? She presses against me harder. Girls, behave. You're completely defenseless. That's what they do to pawns, you know. They let them take the hits. This is bad. This is gone. This is bad. This is gone quickly out of control. I don't think this is what Ruby had in mind at all. Despite her words, her action, I feel no anger from Blake, no hostility. She's just trying her out. I do like this artwork. She just looks sad. She doesn't look sad. She looks like she's going to eat her. Perhaps that's on her mind. I blink up at her, my palms pressed against the cool stone. It feels like the arms of the throne, and I focus on that sensation. Yeah, we all know what happened in the last episode. Ruby got a little bit upset towards the end, and she gave everyone a blast of her powers. Ruby Rose, you better let go of me. Or what? Says Blake. I tense up, blasting out with my semblance. Shazoom! Oh, it hits Blake full force, knocking her backwards. Yeah, you don't mess with Ruby. The wind, 10 times stronger than they've been in the desert, sends her tumbling head over heels down the hallway in a flurry of rose petals. I like it. So it's sort of an attack, but you get the rose petals as well, which sort of lessens it. Blake Belladonna. Oh, she's not so certain now. Look at her face. As I walk over to her, I notice she lost her grip on her weapon. Bending down to pick it up, I give it an experimental twirl. A blade made of white bone, connected by solid black chains. Yeah, it was interesting. It had chains attached to it. I approach her. She's sitting with her back to the wall, ears pressed flat against her skull, which is something that cats do when they're scared or so threatened, don't they? Yeah, how about that, Blake? Yeah. What was, how did... Reaching out with the chain scythe, I take the edge of the blade and hold it under her chin. Ruby. Wow. She's shown her mettle here, hasn't she? Yeah, how about that for a puppet queen? Ruby Rose, I'm tougher than I look. She's quiet, eyes narrowed. Where's Yang? Until I reverse my grip, holding the weapon that she can grab the handle. I don't do that, Ruby. Don't do that. After a moment, she does. She stands up and rubs her jaw, testing it by opening her mouth wide and wincing. Blake. So that wasn't just a parlour trick back there in the throne room. Ruby. Nope. Well, I think the danger's past. Flat gold eyes, like freshly minted coins, stare at me with renewed intensity. Then she's earned her respect there. Blake. How did you do that? Ruby. That's my semblance, kind of. There's something in my blood, something that makes it very powerful. But that's proof I'm the queen. It sure is. Feel my power. I'm connected to all sorts of things in the plane. I'll explain it in more detail later if you like. Wow, that sort of went well actually, didn't it? Yeah. But in the meantime, is that made of Grimm bone? Confused by my sudden shift in topic, Blake stares at me for a moment before making the connection. Blake. Oh, you mean my chain scythe? Yeah, the thing that you had to my throat? She lifts up the weapon, displaying it to me. Yes, says Ruby. Does she have a name? Blake. No, not yet. But these do. Holding the nameless scythe in one hand, she reaches behind her back easy, slowly, and unsheathes a small, straight sword, one I'd never even noticed. Blake, this is Gambol, and Shroud is right next to him. Gambol and Shroud, nice names for your swords. They're all made of Grimm, and bark of the ferrous tree. Ruby. But how? Grimm bone is unbreakable without magic. And there's not a fire hot enough to make mould ferrous bark. Blake. It's part of my research with Oobleck. Ooh, okay, so they're sort of forging special weapons. Her eyes widen. Blake, research that I've completely sabotaged by... Her ears droop down, hanging limply atop her skull. What? By attacking the Queen of the Vale. Oh, that's much more like it. Ruby, well, in your defense, you thought you were helping me. Did she? Ruby, you need to toughen up a little bit. Blake, it was just... You were just... I really thought you were... Ruby, an innocent little girl in over her head? She bites her lip to keep from incriminating herself further. Ruby, you weren't going to hurt me anyway. Yeah, I didn't get the feeling that Blake was going to hurt you. It was more, I think she was just trying to threaten you. You're a good person. I can tell that sort of stuff. Lowering her head some, Blake keeps quiet. Blake, Queen's intuition? Ruby, exactly. Oh, the atmosphere's in a much better state now. That was a close call for a second. I don't know if Yang had seen that going on, there would have been an almighty fight. Ruby, now come with me. We have a lot to do if we're going to keep the kingdom safe, and we'll just keep that between us girls, yeah? That little tussle. For everybody. I gesture for her to follow, and she does. Ruby Rose, do you have a safe place to stay in the city? Blake, I do, sometimes. Great. And reliable transportation to the castle if we need you. She pats her outer thigh as we walk. Do my legs count? Ruby Rose, technically. But it might be easier for you if we just cut out the question of transportation altogether. What? Excuse you? We have a bunch of empty rooms that belong to our old court members. We could clear one out and bring your things in. Is that wise? I know we're all friends again, but she was threatening you a second ago. If you want to stay here, that is. Blake, She swallows. She's not used to this kind of thing, is she? Kindness. Could I see the room? There's a little blush on her face there, I think. Of course, let's go right now. Wow, okay. Okay. After a few days, I approved my first court member. I guess a summons from Glinda. Oh, God, here we go. The misery. Urging me to meet her in the throne room when I'm able. Glinda. She's waiting for me when I arrive. Of course she is. Ruby Rose. Hello, Lady Goodwitch. How are things? Glinda. Only mildly chaotic, so a definite step up from earlier this week. Oh, cheery old Glinda. Choosing a Faunus to be your first court member was an inspired decision. Oh, okay. An approval from Glinda? Ruby, I think it was the right one. What do you think? Glinda, odder things have come to pass. Okay, well that's about as good as you can get from Glinda, really. Only time will tell if she is to be a valuable addition to our ranks. Ruby, valuable or not, I like her. We're getting that feeling. Glinda, do you now? You know that little smile on her face? She's like, oh yeah. Ruby, stop blushing, you're giving the game away. It's the ears, isn't it, Ruby? I understand, it's the ears. Glinda, I'll assume you have the kingdom's best interests at heart then. Yeah, take that smug look off your face, Glinda. Ruby, I think you might be confused. I think I catch a smile gracing her lips as I brush past her to sit on my throne, but when I turn, her face is neutral. Glinda's teasing aside, I can't help but notice that the throne already feels more comfortable against my skin than it ever had before. Ruby, so why did you call me here? Just to gossip about my first court member? Glinda, no, your lessons continue tonight. We must begin learning how to wield the power of the Crescent Rose. Yeah, of course, yeah, we talked about that, didn't we? We've got to do some sort of training montage. Cold shivers run down my spine, but I nod in agreement. Ruby Rose, so how do we start? Glinda, today we are focusing on your semblance. She has been using her semblance. You don't know what's going on, Glinda. You've got rose petals and wind blasts. After attuning to the throne, its power has been doubled. As you kindly demonstrated with the Faunus representatives. Yeah, that's right. She gave them a little blast of her semblance. Ruby, Glinda, but how long can you maintain that power? Ruby, I'm not sure. I've never tested that. Glinda, try now. No further instructions follow that, so I just do as she asks. I hold onto the armrest of the throne, concentrating hard. A gust of wind blows across the empty room, swirling rose petals, swept to and fro by the force of it. Glinda stumbles but doesn't lose her balance. Her cape flaps like a flag in the wind. She's like Storm, isn't she? That from Marvel? Anyway, sorry. With no goal in mind, I just let the winds run rampant, coursing through the room. It's confined by the roof and the walls, but I have a feeling if I put more energy into it, I could slam open the doors, crash through the windows. But... Glinda, how are you feeling? I take it it's really... Look, she's got the sweaty face. Yeah, it's loud and windy in there. She's shouting over the winds. There you go. A little drained. How long do I keep this up? As long as you can. As things turn out, we discover my limit is a little over 2 minutes. By the end of it, I'm sweating through my clothes and it's hard to breathe. Once I recover, we try again, this time standing up and far from the throne. Glinda, this hardly counts as a field test, but at the very least now we know you don't need to be on the chair itself to access its power. Okay, interesting. Has that happened before? Now, how about maintaining control over it? How concentrated can the winds be? Ruby, are you training me or doing experiments on me? Seems a bit of both. Glinda, both. I'm trying to discover the limitations of your power. Ruby, so we're messing around until we figure out what I can do and can't do. Glinda, yes. Now I want you to try to lifting something. Briefly I thought of Yang. She was more clever than me about testing the rules. I'll bring her to the next lesson. Mind wanders to Yang. Make your mind up, Ruby. But if she were here now, what would she ask me to do? An idea strikes me. I use my winds as a boost to knock people aside or to propel me forward. But what about in other directions? Oh yeah. Hey Glinda, step back for a bit. I return to the throne and hop onto the seat, which is the highest thing in the room. Holding onto the back of it for balance, I perch on the armrests. What's going on? What's going on? Glinda, what are you going to do? Ruby, something stupid probably. Jumping off the throne, I activate my semblance with as much force behind me as I can. The winds surge up, lifting me into the air. She is Storm. Look, she's got up into the air. Unless Glinda's suddenly shrunk. This time the winds are so strong, Glinda is forced to her knees as she has shrunk, instantly covering her head with one arm as she glares up at me. Glinda, Ruby! For a few glorious moments I am airborne. Wow, she can fly. But I can't control the angle of the winds for too long, not with any kind of precision. They hit my legs, flipping me right side down. In my panic, I lose all control and go flying off to a corner of the throne room, falling to the floor in a jumble of metal and leather. Pretty good though for a first flight. Ouch, wrong outfit to try flying in. Yeah, she needs like a wingsuit or something like that. Can we get her a wingsuit? Can someone make her, the royal tailor? Like a wingsuit? Is that possible? But I flew for a few seconds. I know I did. Sitting up, I rub the back of my head as Glinda's heels click closer to me. She grabs my forearm, helping me up to my feet. Glinda, strong enough to lift someone in full armor then? She sighs. Ruby, so now what? Glinda, let's tone down the excitement for a moment. Force and power come easily to you. Now we'll test self-control. Pulling a gold coin out of her pocket, she balances it on its edge so that it is standing like a little wheel. Glinda, move it as far as you can without lifting it from the floor or knocking it aside. Wow, so a real test of delicacy here. Ruby, what? That's stupid. I don't think so. No, that's interesting. Oh, no, don't do that. Go back. That's stupid. I'm stupid. Glinda, I didn't ask for your opinion, Rose. That's Queen, please. Queen Rose. Ruby, I'm just going to knock it over. Glinda, try not to. For a moment I wonder if she's messing with me, but Glinda doesn't break out into a smile or laugh. Of course she doesn't. I don't think she can smile. Is she able to smile? I crouch down in front of the coin, pursing my lips. Ruby, Holding out a hand, I push forward with my semblance as delicately as possible. The coin wobbles from the sudden breeze and rattles onto its side. Ruby, see? Let's first go, Ruby. Not satisfied, Glinda has me do the coin test at least a dozen more times before she lets me give up. Ruby, what was the point of that anyway? Come on, Ruby, you can see that. Glinda, what was the point of jumping off your throne like a lunatic? We've seen what you can do. Wielding Crescent Rose takes self-control. There you go, Ruby. See? These tests are nothing more than using it to amplify your own power. The real test comes later. Really? Tapping into the energies of the land, of Crescent Rose itself. Okay. And then allowing it to use you. When's this going to happen? Disquieted, I sink lower down and sit on the floor, fiddling with the gold coin. Sounds fun. I don't think she means that. Glinda, your parents did this before you, and my predecessor guided them as I guide you. It's what will keep us safe, Rose. Speaking of which, where is your glaive? Ruby, I left Littlethorn in my room. Glinda, go fetch it. The very first thing Glinda does is enchant Littlethorn so that it won't break against Grimm hide. Okay, that's useful. My grip tightens around the haft, watching her whisper words of protection and strength. Glinda is badass. I know I ride her, but she is really a serious character. Ruby Rose, I wish we had this 7 years ago. Glinda, we have been fighting back, learning. Once the spells are done, she surprises me by moving her hands to cover mine. Glinda, we won't make the same mistakes. That little moment where she's actually human. Okay, that was all good. Nice little training session. Ozpin and Glinda take me outside the city to the isolated temple where the major portals reside, the Curia. We're escorted by a squadron of the castle guard, all on horseback. Okay, this is where Glinda lives, isn't it? Where the wizards live, the Curia? Yang and I ride on our dragons, of course, drawing attention as we go. Selika is in a good mood, but that means different things for sand dragons, especially wild ones. I have to keep a closer eye on her to make sure she doesn't snap and bite anyone who decides to ride too close. Good old Ozpin, there he is, he's looking in fine fettle. Lord Ozpin, you know, we have a fine selection of mounts back at the stables. He's only teasing, but I still feel the need to defend my choice. You're going to ride a horse when you've got a dragon? You have to defend yourself. So everyone would ride a dragon if we could have one. Ruby Rose, I'm a rose, but I'm also a Xiao Long. The good luck pendant rests underneath my armour, kept on a leather cord around my neck. That's the one that an old lady gave me before we left camp. Before we left the desert. Ruby, I think it'd be good if people remembered that. Yeah, people aren't going to miss the dragon. I need a reminder myself now and then. Twisting her neck back to look at me in the eye, Selika squawks at me, her gait doesn't waver. Yang, look where you're going, silly. Selika chirps and straightens out, neck ruffles frilling out in a gesture I've come to associate with happiness. If you remember, Yang was playing with the dragons in the last episode. She was showing them who's boss. This is the most exercise they've gotten in a while. Both dragons are just eager to explore the world as their master is. Glinda, just be careful not to run around the city in your robes. Yang, why not? Shush, dog. Lie still, dog. Right, that's me talking to my dog. Okay, she's settled again. That's my dragon. Sorry. Yang, think of what a good angle that is to spin. The romance of a lost princess, you know? She's like our PR agent as well, isn't she, Yang? Good to have her back, to be honest. Yang, we need to take way more advantage of that. Ruby could play like she attained enlightenment out in the wilds or something. People eat that stuff up. Ozpin, that also might ruffle the feathers of more than a few conservatives. Who cares about those stuff shirts? Yang, it's just a thought. Ruby, but I'd like to improve relations between Vale and the tribe. Considering you and I know them pretty well, we might be in a good place to merge them into the Summer Rose Court. Yang, What is the Summer Rose Court, anyway? Lord Ozpin, representatives from each plane, including ours. It's to ease communications between the planes, to strengthen ourselves as their allies. I've talked a little bit about that before. Glinda, when Ruby's parents were still alive, they had a council of their own. Those who weren't lost in the attack broke away into separate factions. Okay. Ozpin, but the Xiaolongs have been isolated from us for much longer than that. Tai Yang was a court member once, you know? Dad? Yang. Dad? Really? Ruby. Yeah, but not for very long. He tried merging the Xiaolongs and the Roses many, many times. Finally he got frustrated and left. Yang. How come you never told me about any of this? Ruby. Well, it was before we were born. Lord Ozpin. His disinterest in the court is what made his tribe such an attractive place to hide you, Robo. I see that. Yeah, that's a good idea. Glinda. He did a good job. The day I found you was not the first attempt I'd made to search the deserts for the last rose heir. Ruby. What made you decide to come back one more time? Ozpin. A hunch. Though you could have been anywhere. All we knew was that you were alive, and that was it. You weren't fully attuned to the throne, but it still wanted you. No one else. Okay, so the throne was sort of... Ozpin was sitting on the throne, wasn't he? Suffering. So he was obviously getting vibes that... yeah, it told me as much. Ruby, Crescent Rose spoke to you? Ozpin. What? No. Yes, he just said so, didn't he? He pauses. Of course not. That wasn't the most definite of answers, was it that? Glinda. Crescent Rose is just what we call the power that rests in our plane. It cannot speak. Ozpin, but it is impossible to deny that it sometimes appears to have a will of its own. Shush, dog. Glinda. Most of the court abandoned Vale to return to their own parts of the plane when they realised they couldn't wield Crescent Rose. Okay, okay. Ozpin was the only one crazy enough to try. It almost killed him. That is a lot to take in. They're right. I'm just trying to process that. So there was members of the court, they tried to use the throne, they couldn't, and they left. Ozpin, the only remaining court members are Glinda, Crow, and myself. Glinda, so really just Ozpin and I. Lord Ozpin, that will change soon. Rebuilding the court will give us strength again. I hope. I echo the sentiment privately. The sky darkens as we arrive, clouds gathering thick enough to block out the sun. Yang keeps glancing up, forehead wrinkling with displeasure. Ruby, it looks like it's going to rain again. Yang, I know, I can smell it in the air. That face of Yang's makes me nervous. Yeah, she's dragon folk, she's desert folk. I don't think they're going to like rain. The dragons might get sick if we push them through another storm like we did on the way here. That's right, they had to ride through a storm after Glinda found her. I rub Salika's neck, feeling her thick muscles roll under my hand. Ruby, they'll be taken care of while we're inside. Right, what, we're going inside? The Curia? Lord Ozpin, of course. Are you ready, Ruby? Nodding my affirmative, I slide from the saddle and look up at the entrance to the Curia. Ooh, nice. Like Beacon, the exterior is protected by stone walls, but the material is different. The white walls of my kingdom are all cut from the same quarries, but these are dense and grey. You can see the little bells on the top there. Nice piece of artwork. What's more, there aren't any seams in its construction. It makes me pause before I steer my dragon closer to put a hand on the flat surface. Ruby, it's completely smooth. So what? It's formed from... Okay, and very annoyingly, my recording stops there. Even though I did another half hour, we travelled inside the Curia and went through the first portal, but for some reason it's only recorded the first 35 minutes, so I'll have to go back and re-record that. So that's where it ends tonight. Apologies again. there'll be a link in the game description below, which will take you through to the Summer Rose Court, which is free to download and play on itch. I recommend you do it yourselves, and I'll go back and record all that again. Apologies for that, and I'll see you next time. I hope you enjoyed that. Bye bye.